All right, how's it going, guys? This is Flash coming at you. It's Wednesday night around 5:45 p.m. Central Time. We got a severe weather threat on our hands, and we're going to dive in and take a look before the action gets going in about 5-6 hours, give or take a few. So let's look at the current setup, kind of the current standing and stats, if you will. For Tennessee, which is our point of reference in this case, we've got some rogue cells start to pop up, some hail over in Donaldson, from what I've heard, colleagues working from home at work. Impressive cell near Lawrenceburg. That still looks like it's going on strong as it approaches the Alabama border and near I-65. And you kind of get the idea. There's a cell that's approaching me here in White Bluff. It's moving more to the northeast, which seems like an outlier. A lot of these cells, this cell near Lawrenceburg is moving from the northwest to the southeast, which is going to be the primary direction of these cells tonight. But the ones that have popped up north of that, they're moving southwest to northeast, which I find it interesting. So I haven't really gone into the reasons why that is, but sometimes you get some weird behavior, some odd movement from cells out ahead of the main line. All of Tennessee, pretty much 90%. Knoxville now including that enhanced risk. Chattanooga. Initially, that enhanced slight risk line was the plateau, and that expanded eastward. You can see the severe weather outlook for this evening. This is posted by the National Weather Service in Nashville, and this has been the calling card all day. Damaging winds, straight line winds, tropical storm near hurricane category 1 magnitude, large hail, golf balls or bigger. Some reports of 4-inch diameter size hail up in Iowa. An isolated tornado threat can't be ruled out. It's only 1 out of 5. You can see hail, damaging winds. That also includes microbursts, the potential for EF0, EF1 tornado level winds in those microbursts. So my thought is, even with straight line winds, it may not sound as ominous, as threatening, but whether you get hit by 90 mile per hour in a tornado or 95 mile per hour in a microburst or a derecho, you got to take it seriously. It still could do quite a bit of damage to life and property. So, and the flooding threat, not really worried. These storms are moving fast and aggressively. You can see the timing. Nothing has really changed a whole lot. These haven't updated really since this morning. So for most of us watching this, we're probably in this 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. range. But clearly there's been some activity ahead of this. So we'll close that out. The outlook, this is a broad enhanced risk, one of the biggest enhanced risks I've seen in quite a while. That covers St. Louis, Springfield, near Indianapolis. Almost all of Kentucky's in this, and all the main cities in Tennessee. The tornado threat, it's not 0, it's not even 2, it's 5. That's legit. 5 miles of a tornado within any given point. That's, for tornado speak, that's not a small number. And the wind and hail threats, especially, we need to talk about, because you can see both the wind and hail threats have hatched areas marked within the main red core, that 30% zone. And when we talk about these colors, brown, yellow, red, they pertain to 5, 15, 30% probabilities of damaging storm winds or wind gusts of 50 plus knots. That's 60, 75 miles per hour within 25 miles of a given point. That hatched area represents smaller probabilities, but they show just the ceiling of event. Anytime you see a hatched area, think that the ceiling of the severe weather event is high compared to normal. For winds, that's 65 knots. So you're talking about, category 1 hurricane level winds during category 2 type stuff, like pretty absurd. And hail, when we talk about the difference between the red 30% zone and the hatched area, it's actually easier to remember, for me anyway, because when you're talking about this red 30% risk, you're talking, or severe weather level hail in general is 1% diameter. 1%, 1 inch diameter. That's your baseline. Got to get to like that quarter threshold. That hatched area, though, if you're in that, you could expect in this case, 10+% probability of 2-inch diameter hail within 25 miles of a given point. So the mileage of a given point is the same. the parameters of the severe weather criteria is different. All right, we're done there. HRR model, pretty reliable generally when you're talking about short-term models within 24 hours. You could see these. I wish I could zoom in here. That's why I'm going to go to pivotal weather in just a second. You can't really see the magnitude of the activity here, but you could see the general motion of this front, or the storms, the squalling associated with this front. There's a northwest to southeastern component to motion here. And so that's interesting. Sometimes that's indicative of neutral tilt. And if you get a neutral trough, a trough that's doing this, you could see the contours indicating this neutral tilt, where the axis of the trough is oriented with storm motion, where you see that high pressure and you see the contours diving from the northwest to the southeast. You see that U shape, that horseshoe shape here, that's negative tilt. So could talk more about that, but I want to actually get off tropical because you can't do region. I don't know how to do a region there, but here, if you are on pivotal weather, you can do a regional view, click the U.S. and click the Ohio Valley, and all of a sudden, bam, in much better shape. So let's look at that HRRR again. That updates every hour. And we'll just go out here a little bit. There are a lot of toys on this side, especially you could see this surface and precip. Each model has their own parameters here on the sidebar, and my Chrome is slow, my internet's slow, it's been slow today. So apologies. All right, so look, you can see instability. Right now you're seeing like a reflectivity, a basic radar look there. But once we find the right hour using the reflectivity, we can drill down on the severe weather parameters. That's what I like to do. 0Z, we're now in daylight time, so you subtract 5 hours off that Z time, that Zulu time, to get the central time. So 1 a.m. Zulu, that's going to be 8 p.m. Central. Still plenty of action. I want to know, is this slowing down or not? Still some signs of activity, pop-up, popcorn activity. Most of the action seems to be northwest there. Finally making some movement. 4Z, that's 11 p.m. 5Z, midnight. And this is knocking on the doorstep finally around midnight. Seems to be a break in the line. And there's some decent BZs, though. There'll be some heavy downpours for sure, but I wonder if this thing will lose some fire punch, the loss of daytime heating. I don't know. I don't really think that, though. We got forcing. We got plenty of lift and instability ahead of this. It's warm. It's muggy. Went out for a run. It got hot in a hurry, so air's not going to have any problem rising. But you need both strong convergence at the surface and divergence aloft. The signals are there, but here we're at the time frame we're looking for. 6C, it's 1 a.m. Let's get off surface and precip. I'm not concerned about the amount of rain. If flooding was a bigger threat, I would want to know. And this is not minimizing. That's so frustrating. There we go. I guess you have to do it that way. Lapse rates. I'm not going to bore you with the details, but steeper the lapse rates, the difference between these millibar levels, which represent a certain height in the atmosphere, the brighter shades of orange and red, steeper lapse rates, that is indicative of greater potential, mixed layer cape. You get some air intrusion kind of mixing in the mid-levels. There's a sharp cutoff. I wonder what it looks like before. It's probably because of where the front and the storms along. That's probably, there we go. So you can see it's very strong in West Tennessee. Clearly west of 65, the stronger mixed levels or mixed layer cape. I think we have to go back a little bit to see the parameters ahead of when the rain starts. Because once the rain starts to fall, the intensity starts to decrease to a certain extent because the temps are cooling in the air column. Doesn't mean it completely eradicates it. So let's just look at some other parameters, bulk shear. Oh, I forgot lifted index. That kind of shows you where the precip is, interestingly. Wow, look at that lift, especially northwest Middle Tennessee. That's crazy. That lifted index. I think that West Tennessee is more under the gun. Just gut reaction, being straight up. I think West Tennessee and Western Kentucky. Middle Tennessee's not out of the woods, so don't hear me say that. I just think that of the enhanced risk, I would still put the bullseye of the concern west of Middle Tennessee. But still, there's a worst case scenario, and if that unfolds like it did on March 2nd, that's bad news. Helicity, maybe I need to advance one more over. By the way, these parameters are still high even for West Tennessee. It just seems like something's off as these move east to 65, and I'm not sure. And I mean that in a weakening sense. But none of these levels, like the supercell composite, we back up a bit. I'd say Memphis, yikes. Jackson, Tupelo, like this area here in this CWA, we'll need to really watch things. I think Middle Tennessee is looking, it's more bark than bite. Just being straight up here. Can these cells hold together? I'm sure they might. A few might hold together after they cross the Tennessee River. Significant tornado. I mean, this is just one model too. That's another thing I got it. Let's flip to NAM or something. I'm getting all caught up in HRRR, and that's just one. But it says there's some similar. Now there's some peaks here. These are 3-hour intervals, by the way. So we're out of the HRRR where you have 1-hour intervals. Oh, okay. That's high. Anything over 1 is you have to pay attention for. So you know what NAM is saying? Not so fast. I mean, it seems like south of 40 in Middle Tennessee is going to be the area of greater concern if I'm looking at this right. Go back to helicity. That's more like a gauge, a barometer of spin, which is a good index to look at if you're trying to get a preliminary sense how rotation is going to play out. You need all these working together. See, I'm not seeing these purples, but just because we're not in the purples in a lot of these doesn't mean that there's not potential. I just think that the bullseye, the heart of greatest concern is west of here. So we'll see. Lifted index. That's back to, I'm going to go back to lifted index. Come on. Well, that's great. Those are large values for southern central Tennessee. So here's what I'm going to say. Within that enhanced risk, I am looking, I think the threat's going to be greatest for western Tennessee, western Kentucky, and south central Tennessee, northern Mississippi, and also northwestern Alabama. There's more we could look at, but for sake of time, we will just explicit convective products. I don't think of, oh, you can get some track ideas here. See what I mean about these tracking northwest to southeast? It's going to be interesting. I haven't really seen a system like this in a while where most of the primary storm motion was northwest to southeast. Normally it's southwest to northeast, east to west, or west east. All right, so that's all for now. Just wanted to offer kind of an inside look as to what I'm thinking about tonight. Things could still change. Weather's changing by the second. So a lot of these, I'm going to be following, closely monitoring throughout the night, but I am not that concerned for Middle Tennessee, just being straight up honest. But it doesn't mean in 3 hours from now that something may have changed and all of a sudden my concern level rises. You just have to watch this thing as we go out. So hope you guys stay safe, stay storm alert. Have a way of getting notifications of warnings, not just one way, but two ways, not just apps. If you get into a radio, if you haven't gotten one, do not be that person who's relying upon sirens. Please don't. Just stay tuned, really. Stay plugged in as much as you can, and we'll get through this thing like we always do. All right. Flash out. Have a great night. Peace.